Sellers Month of Horrors, Terrors Through Time. I'm Dan, and I'm here to bring you my pick for the 2000s. We started all the way back in the 1930s, and we've made it to the 2000s. We're going to keep going until we hit the 2020s, and we get to the end of the month of October. If you've enjoyed these, make sure to go check out our podcast, The Movie Cellar, wherever you listen to podcasts. And we'll be doing a wrap-up episode where Chris, Jack, and I all get together and talk about our picks, what we loved, what we were disappointed in, and some of our thoughts about doing it this particular way through the decades and how that was. So, also, if you haven't watched the earlier episodes, please if you enjoy this, go back and check those out because we've covered some really, really cool movies. Between Chris, Jack, and I, we've covered a bunch of classics, but we've also covered a lot of stuff that maybe you never had an opportunity to watch or you've never heard of. And we break them down for you and tell you what's cool about them and if they're good flicks to watch during Halloween season. So, huge shout out to Chris and Jack for all the hard work that they put into this month of horrors. I couldn't have done it without you guys, and you've added so much great perspective on the films that you've covered. My list of movies to watch has not shrunk during the month, but it has grown, which is a big problem for me. But, hashtag first world problems. I'll be okay. Anyway, I'm here to talk about my pick for the 2000s, which is Eden Lake. So this film came out in 2008. It is a British horror film. It is directed by James Watkins. And I don't know if you know that name. I didn't know that name before, looking it up for this. But you probably know some of the films he's done. He did The Woman in Black, starring Daniel Radcliffe, back in the 2010s. And then he also just did Speak No Evil, starring James McAvoy. So, if you've recently watched Speak No Evil on streaming or you went out to theaters and saw it and you're like, I'm really into that, you want more of that, maybe check out Eden Lake. That's another film by this director. The film also has pretty respectable cast. It stars Michael Fassbender, who you may know as the young Magneto in the X-Men franchise, as well as many, many other roles he's played. And Kelly Riley, who you may know as a main character on the series Yellowstone. So the film got a 79% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes. It got a 66 from audiences. I have a feeling I know why the audiences didn't love it as much as the critics. We'll get into that in a minute. First up, let's get through the plot. All right. So you have this couple, this young couple. They're very in love. They're planning a holiday weekend where they're going to go out to this lake, Eden Lake, and, camp and have some alone time to, do a little snuggle. If the tent's a rockin', don't come a knockin'. I don't know. Anyway, they're excited to have some time out in the woods, out by the lake. They get there. There's a bunch of teenagers there at the lake, just being loud and obnoxious, playing music, being rude. Their dog is there, takes a dump on the beach, licks the woman's face over and over. It's like they're having a really hard time with this. But, he goes over, he's like, guys, can you chill? Can you get your dog to chill? And they eventually leave, and he thinks all is well, all is good. Well, later on, they get back, they come across the teenagers again. And there's a bit of an altercation. One of the kids pulls a knife. And Michael Fassbender's character is like, nah, dude, no, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. There's a scuffle. And the dog gets stabbed and dies. Now the kids are like, you killed my dog. And they are trying to kill him. They capture him. And they tie him up. Well, first of all, the two of them try to escape in their Jeep. They obviously crash. Or else the movie would be very short. They pull, she gets away. He's stuck in the car. He says, run away so that you're safe. She goes to run away. They pull him out of the car and they tie him up. Now, it's a very interesting thing here. They're very reluctant villains, right? Like, they don't necessarily want to be doing this. Most of the kids are not into it, but the leader of the group is like, hey, this is what we're doing. We're going to film this, and you're all going to take a stab at him, literally, so that I have it on film that you were all involved, so that nobody's getting out of this. They all are like very like, we don't want to do it, but they do it. And so he's in really, really rough shape. She finds a way to distract them. They start chasing her. While they're chasing her, he gets away. You know, he's like tied up with barbed wire, and he like pulls himself out of it. It's very nasty. Very gory movie, by the way. If you're squeamish, you may have trouble with it. But anyway, she gets them to chase her. He gets away. It's a whole movie of cat and mouse. Ultimately, I feel like I don't want to give this away, but I feel like to explain my feelings about the movie, I have to. Ultimately, they both die. And she ends up in a situation where she thinks she gets away. She gets in a car, they take her to safety, but it's actually the parents of the kids. So, yeah, that's what the movie is. It's very bleak. It's not a lot of fun. And I think that's why audiences didn't love it. It's not a fun movie. It's not a pleasant movie. It is just gruesome and like not there's any time that you think that there's any hope or anything good that's going to happen, something comes along to block it. And so it's just this very depressing slog through this couple being murdered by these teenagers and their, parents who are like protecting them from the law. Yeah, that's the movie. That's what people, I think that's probably why people don't love it, or some people don't love it. Now, if that's up your alley, that's great. It's not for me. This felt like maybe a revenge movie, like a Last House on the Left, or like a I Spit on Your Grave, except for there's no revenge. It felt kind of like a survival horror, like maybe like a Hills Have Eyes or something like that, except for there's no survival. So it's a revenge movie without revenge, a survival movie without surviving. So it's kind of just a downer. Was it scary? Of course it was scary. It was a very scary movie. The thought of a bunch of teenagers being capable and hyping themselves up to do something so horrific and violent and evil, and the fact that they all do it so reluctantly is so unsettling, and so like just unnerving. And so, yes, it is scary. And the fact that nobody gets out alive is also scary. And the fact that it paints this very bleak picture is also very scary. So, yes, it's scary. It's unsettling. And it sat with me for sure. Now, is it a Halloween movie? No, I don't think so. Because I don't think that the kind of Halloween horror movie that I want to watch is the kind that's fun. Like, maybe people die. Definitely people die. Definitely there's nasty kills, but we're having a good time with it. And somebody's going to survive, whether it's the final girl or whatever, but there's going to be some kind of survivor, or it's a revenge horror where that survivor gets to turn around and you get to enjoy the slaughter because, it's deserved, because it's being brought on the people who caused the pain and injury to the person in the first place. You don't get any of that with this. So there's no fun element to this movie. And so for me, that makes it immediately a no-go for Halloween. Halloween movies should have some fun element to it. A very well-made movie, but not, in my opinion, good for Halloween. Rating, I cannot remember if I've been doing 5 or 10 scale. So I'm going to do 10 because that's what I used to do on the show. Let me know if I've been doing 5 and I fucked this all up. I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. Really, really good movie. Really well-made movie. Really well acted. Really great plot. really well paced, everything about it, very, very well done. But it's not what I'm looking for when I watch horror. It's not what I'm looking for, especially around Halloween. And so I'm going to ding it a little bit for me as far as likability. I didn't think it was a super fun, enjoyable watch. It's definitely not something that I plan to watch again because I don't like movies that leave me feeling just sort of depressed about humanity. So there you have it. That's my pick for the 2000s. Eden Lake, 2008. I hope you guys are having a great October. Hope you're watching a lot of great movies. Come back tomorrow and hear what Jack picked for the 2000s. Until then.